I want to talk a little bit about what I'd call the hidden nature of API security. And to explain what I mean by that, let's first look at a traditional website. And in fact, what you see on the screen here is the dedicated insecure website I created for the Hack Yourself First course, the predecessor to this one if you like. Now what we're looking at is a login form. It takes an email address and a password. We can also see that this login form is served over HTTP and not HTTPS. It's not a secure connection. There's no assurance of who we're connected to, yet it's asking for sensitive data. Now in the course, I explain why this is a risk, even if it posts to HTTPS. And the point I want to make here is that it's very clear, it's overtly obvious that we do not have a fundamental security tenet, which is SSL. No HTTPS, no green padlock, no certificate. Now let's compare this to a secure site, Pluralsight. When you log on to Pluralsight and you provide your username and password, we can very clearly see, just by the address bar, that it is indeed an HTTPS connection. It's gone green, we have a padlock, and if we'd like, we can click on the padlock, inspect the certificate, see who it was issued to, see who the certificate authority was, and of course also see when the certificate is valid until. This is very clear and present security. And indeed we tend to try and ingrain into people that they should expect to see these very, very basics on any website where security is important. But of course it's not just SSL, which is overtly obvious either by its presence or by its omission. It's also other security aspects, things like cross-site scripting, SQL injection. It only takes one or two simple requests in the browser, the sort of things I talk about in that previous course, to see that a site might actually be seriously vulnerable. Now that's one or two requests that the developer can easily make when they're building the site. Same as the QA people, same as even the security team. It's very easy to find security risks in web applications. You can also easily do things like look at cookies. Are they flagged as HTTP only or secure? Do they have long expirations? All of these things are easily observable with one or two clicks inside the browser. Let's compare that to the paradigm of apps running on today's modern devices. Here's a good example. I've got 3 apps here. One of these does a very poor job of the login security. Which one is it? Well, it's kind of hard to tell. We don't get a URL that's visible within the app before we entrust our personal sensitive data with the app. No HTTPS, no green padlocks, no certificates we inspect. We trust, or at least we hope, that the developers of the app have done a good job of it. But unfortunately, we really have no assurance, nothing beyond reputation. And unfortunately, reputation is a very poor security control. Now this not only makes things harder for the consumer, but it actually makes things harder for the developers and the testers and, as I said earlier, even the security teams to find immediately obvious risks like you can in the browser. It's certainly easy enough if you know how to go about it, but it's not the same as just looking at the URL or the developer tools in Chrome. That is a different story altogether. So we're going to touch on all that in this course. But before we go on with that, let's just recap on exactly what I mean when I talk about APIs.